And here you go. Take that. Awesome. So, Ingrid, for those customers, people here who don't know much about e.l.f., why don't we start a little bit with just give us the background of e.l.f., what you sell, who the customers are, and what you do there.
So, quick quiz. What does... Oh, shoot, you got the new logo. e.l.f. stands for eyes, lips, face. It was funny because Sam, the MC, came over to me and he's like, I just don't want to get it wrong. Do I say e.l.f. or do I say e.l.f.? And I was like, both are acceptable. So obviously we set out to be called e.l.f. and then being consumer-centric, everyone started saying e.l.f. and we're like, cool, we're e.l.f. now. So both are acceptable. So we started about 15 years ago as a direct-to-consumer disruptive brand in the beauty and cosmetic space. The idea was, why does it have to be so expensive to have high-quality, high-value cosmetics? And so we actually started out direct-to-consumer on e-commerce as a $1, $2, $3 lipstick, eyeshadow, makeup brand. And it was pretty disruptive for the time. And then eventually, other people entered into the field. We decided to switch into a larger distribution channel. So now we're actually retailer and direct-to-consumer. So 26,000 retail outlets throughout the US and the UK, a little bit of Germany. And also, but we still maintained our direct-to-consumer roots. So that is our history.
Awesome. And the mission statement, if my recall is right, is every eye, lip, and face. So talk a little bit about that. I think a lot of the disruptive direct-to-consumer brands came up and they said, hey, here's a niche, right? A certain type of customer segment that's underserved, and I'm going to hit that and hit that hard. But you guys took a little bit of a different approach. So talk about what the whole every part of that is and how that kind of rolls out into how you think about things.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually to bring that e.l.f. OMG moment to every eye, lip, and face, right? And so we got a little flack from our board of putting an OMG into our actual mission statement as a publicly traded company, but I'm pretty proud of that. So the challenge in being for every eye, lip, and face, so when I came on a few months ago, within my world, there's e-commerce, but then there's also customer relations and our entire customer service team, right? And this woman, Barbara, who is employee number 2 in the company, who's amazing, and I asked her, so she's been heading up our customer service group for pretty much the entire time she's been there, so 15 years. So she's been in the trenches, meeting all of our customers, talking to them one-on-one. So I'm like, Barbara, who is our customer? Explain, where does she live? Where does he live? What do they love? And she's like, every single person is our customer. Every marketer comes in and they ask me the same question, and they're like, no, truly, every single person is our customer. So gone are the mindset of, our customer, her name is Sally, and she lives in Ohio, and, she loves to swim. There's none of that. There's Sally in Ohio, there's Rebecca in LA, there's Thomas in Florida, and they're very, very, very different. And so we decided, okay, well, we're gonna embrace this. But it did turn a lot of the typical marketing demographic type of work on its head, which, I think I align with Custora so well in terms of understanding the customer purchase behavior, right? And there are patterns in what they do, how they act on the site that have nothing to do with what kind of car does she drive, but have a lot to do with how we can service her best. So it's been such a great alignment to have Custora look at it through purchase behavior, patterns, and actually serving the consumer.
Yep. And so that's such a great theme. I think we often work with retailers, and this concept of segmentation, right? And there's so much there. Everyone wants a one-to-one personalized on-the-channel AI, right? Blah, 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 right? But then you get into the planning for the company and what types of customers are we going after. And I love your story there about there is no who she is. We have many types of customers, right? A very heterogeneous base. So it sounds like, and it's awesome that we've been able to help you in this quest, right? Looking for defining customer types based on the actions they take as opposed to their demographics. And can you talk a little bit about some of the themes? Like I imagine still, the reality is there's millions of different types of individuals, right? But you have this tension of, I still need to kind of somehow characterize that I have some different flavors of customers, different types of customers still.
For sure.
Talk a little bit about what that process was like and sort of getting an organization that maybe was historically really focused on demographics to start thinking about customers that way.
Yeah, so it's really the marriage between our product offering and our value proposition as an affordable, high-value cosmetics brand, as well as where the customer is in their decision-making journey, right? So really thinking about with our merchandising, skincare, like that has become a much bigger trend than color cosmetics has, right? And so what are we doing to ramp up our skincare offering? How do we transition the people who purchase products like primers, right? Because primers sort of live squarely between color cosmetics and skincare. And then how do we introduce them to some of our amazing, like our Supers collection, which is a really, really high quality skincare, but hasn't made its way into their hands. So we look at the primer people, we look at their purchase history, and then we create messaging that's going to catch them exactly at that moment to introduce them to a new product line.
Yep. And have you found that there are sort of clusters of different product lines, like the people who buy primers and lipstick and so on and so forth?
Tons, yeah, and we're constantly testing and developing new ones, right? So there's we just launched a Halloween lookbook. We have 6 different looks, and they're bundled to say, okay, if you want to create this skull look, here are the 5 products that you need, right? And so we're constantly testing into that. So okay, these are the Halloween customers. What can we learn about them? Where are they? How early are they shopping? Did we miss the boat on messaging this, or did we start too early? And even sharing some of that with our retail partners, right? Because ultimately we also want to sell in Target and Ulta and Walmart our Halloween collections. And so there's information that we take and insights that we take from our direct-to-consumer channels into retailers.
That's awesome. And so I think there's a number of brands out here that exist in this way. And there's actually a couple of cool things about your story now that I want to put a pin into.
No bullets.
Yeah, no bullets. You mentioned this earlier too. You started D2C. You had all of the data. Then you realized, hey, we have to get where our customer is. So we can't only sell D2C. We want to go through the partners like Target and so on. Yeah. Of course, the challenge there is in a room filled with people that are obsessed with customer analytics, you don't have all the data anymore, right? And so you guys, I think, have done some pretty interesting and innovative things to try to have that communication flow, as you just described, happening, but also to capture that data. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So we actually just relaunched our loyalty program. So it's our Loyalty 2.0. We have about 1.5 million loyalty subscribers just in the US and the UK. And those were people that typically would only transact on e.l.f.cosmetics.com. So the loyalty program, the jig is up, right? So it's 2 parts. There's benefit to the consumer, but there's also benefit to the retailer in learning and gathering data and things like that. One of the things that was really important to our 2.0 relaunch was our receipt scanning, right? And so that was, hey, we know that you're not always going to buy on e.l.f.cosmetics.com. You're going to buy at Target, you're going to buy at Ulta, you're going to buy at Walmart. You can still get loyalty points and participate in our loyalty program. So just scan the receipt, get the points. And that's a way of being customer-centric in their experience, as well as, bringing in our retailers into our fold, right? So the way that my role is actually designed is I'm not just overseeing e.l.f.cosmetics.com. I oversee the full customer experience as well as retailer.com. So I'm going next week to meet in person with Ulta and with Target and figure out ways that we can work together to gather data, go after the right person at the right time.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's I recall comments from people who work for brands that do a lot of their selling through partners like that of saying no, we have a great, full picture of our customers, but our customers, when we do survey work, we realize they only buy half the stuff. So it's like our 360 is actually a 180, right? And you guys are, I would say maybe for everyone out there who's thinking about how to paint that full picture, even beyond the data that you have, Ingrid is a wonderful person to talk to. It's one of the few initiatives I think that we've seen that actually has got some adoption with users that are doing the scanning to kind of paint that picture. Now, right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're sort of in the beginning journeys of taking that data and merging that in with your holistic customer profiles, but the foundation is set. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that we're doing is we're actually having our Custora rep sit with our digital marketing teams and our agencies to try and say, oh, well, if only we had this information about this audience, and then Custora's like, hey, we do.
Yeah, yep. Well, which is another great theme. So cool. So you're sitting over the customer experience now, right? So I'll take the bait and I'll jump into that line of conversation. So it's a pretty typical scene, but I think what's interesting for everyone here is not only that you have found a way now to say, hey, I've got great insights on customers. Let's get all of the teams, right? Whether it's your internal teams or the agencies you're working with, kind of activating on top of the same set of insights, but even the way that you've like organizationally structured to make that happen. There's probably two buckets. Like we could talk about some of the cool tactical, like the campaigns that you've been able to launch, but maybe first, because I think like often the challenge is just like, how do I herd the cats? You know, how do I get it together? So talk a little bit about working with us and I don't know how many 20 other vendors.
Yeah.
Like, what did you guys do to actually get everyone on the same page?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and it seems the answer I'm going to give is so simple, but it wasn't. It took a long time to get there, and it was start with defining the problem.
Yeah.
What are you trying to achieve with all of your activations, with all of your partners, with all of your resources? What is the actual problem that you're trying to solve, right? So is it a average order value problem? Is it a conversion problem? Is it a quality of traffic problem? Or opportunity, not necessarily problem, but you know, give a real clear and defined path of what does success look like, and really share that to all of your partners and make sure everyone is moving at the exact same time for the exact same purpose, which is, again, really simple to say, difficult to do. It's up to us to be super relentless in that vision.
And did you guys do some things where you actually got some of these partners that you mentioned, you know, that the folks on our team might sit with you as you're talking about it? Have you like organized the meeting of the minds, so to speak?
Yeah. So it was about 2 weeks ago. We had a holiday readiness working session, and I basically locked like 15 of us in a room together, Anna from Custora included, and it was like our digital media partners, our A/B testing partners, and that whole crew, and we just came in and brainstormed, and it was phenomenal, and it was so funny because they were like, Ingrid, we have 200 clients, and you're the first person to do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of bananas. And I was like, I don't really know how to accomplish what I'm trying to do without having done this.
Yeah, but it's so interesting. I mean, props to you and to e.l.f. for putting responsibility into a person who oversees the customer experience, right? Because now you've got that bird's eye view, but also I think like over I don't know, how long have we been doing this company now? Almost a decade. And I can probably count on one hand, the number of times that a marketing leader has said, hey, I'm working with a lot of smart vendors. Let's actually get them all together once a year, right? Or once whatever, you know, for a key initiative like
quarterly.
Yeah, quarterly. And it's like, I know from the vendor side, we were like, oh, this is so cool. Like we form cool partnerships and we're like, wow, right? But all in service of a problem. It does sound so simple. It's like, hey, what are we trying to do? And let's get all the people we're working with in the same room to talk about it. And it's super cool. So now that you've done that and you're actually making progress, anything you can share as someone who now is looking at customer segments a little bit differently, kind of noticing that you have different clusters of users based on the things that they buy, and you've got all of these partners out. What were like the first sorts of the low-hanging fruit, if you want to think of it that way? Like some of the first campaigns that you launched. Like what types of channels and what types of things, if people are thinking about getting started with some sort of coordinated effort like that?
Sure. Yeah. So I think like our email channel was pretty low-hanging fruit for us, right? So understanding how big our email list is, how many of them are actually active, taking a look at, we had a problem with our open rates, right? And so how do you correct lower open rates than you expect, right? So there's list cleansing and hygiene and frequency of getting rid of the people that maybe aren't going to be valuable customers to you, creating a journey for them to determine, if I want to continue participating in e.l.f. or not, and then, cutting losses there. Figuring out doing testing on send times and doing testing on days of the week and frequency and messaging. So a lot of that was powered by audience insights that we gained from Custora, audience insights that we gained from our social media partners, so in digital marketing, like what's happening in social media in terms of creative testing and versioning. So I think the email piece was the lowest hanging fruit and has already, our open rates have gone up like 7%.
Awesome. Ingrid, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.